And then they came for Baen books, and Baen said nothing. Here we go. We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. The leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, #1 best-selling science fiction, steampunk, and graphic novel author extraordinaire, award-winning author, and yet Baen's never reached out to me for a contract for books for some reason. Don't know why. Anyway, if you want to support something that's not controlled opposition, that will never back down to this hateful mob that writes wonderful classic space opera and military science fiction like you used to love, if you're into Babylon 5, if you're into Lensman, if you're into Hyperion, this is the sort of stuff I'm writing. Stars Entwined here. This is my series. I'm literally wrapping up book 3 right now. I think I'm about 500 words away from finishing the book. I just gotta write that ending and make it snappy, you know what I'm saying? So we're getting that going. We'll have a beautiful trilogy. This is going to be opening up something awesome. So please get in on this series. Read it today. I'll leave the link in the description below. Make it easy for you. Support awesome alternatives to the industry. All right. If you guys have not watched the Hoobaloo, this guy Jason Sanford, and he literally just makes a gossip column on Patreon, and then people subscribe to it. He's got like 355 subscribers doing this. He's a failed science fiction writer. He's been doing short fiction for years. He's got a couple novels that he put out that nobody reads, and just is a guy who just really has not been able to make it. And so he's been doing it through this, and he did an attention-grabbing move by attacking Baen Books yesterday. So I'm on vacation. I'm trying to ignore this stuff, but gosh, nobody lets me. Nobody ever lets me have a vacation. Anyway, Baen Books Forum used to advocate for political violence. Here we go. And of course, like every soy boy SJW, well, let's just hone on it for a second. Like every soy boy SJW with a pencil head, he uses advocate for political violence very loosely. And I'm just going to flip out. Every time I read something stupid, I'm just going to go bloop. Because I'm a professional YouTuber. There we go. All right. So he goes through this whole history of Baen's Bar, talking about, this is a forum, basically. So if you remember what forums were, they were like social media before social media. Like-minded people got together on the internet, talked about things they like. Baen's Bar has been a historical one that's been there for a while. It's got 64,000 users. Got a big uptick after the election thing because everybody's getting banned from social media, so they're trying to find decentralized places to discuss topics and have like a relief valve just so you can, you know, life's stressful and you want to go and hang with your own people. It is what it is. It's a good thing, or it was a good thing, I should say. We'll get to that later. And he's going off on how there's all these examples of, quote, political violence, and he names Tom Kratman. Kratman is a Baen author, and so, of course, Baen should be protecting Tom Kratman and saying this is absolute nonsense. Kratman never harmed a fly, except for, you know, maybe in combat. But, you know, on behalf of the United States military, he's a veteran. But they didn't. They didn't go out there and protect Tom Kratman. Their response is coming up. You'll see pretty soon. But Tom Kratman was talking about building a militia. He's always building these war games. That's kind of his thing. He writes books about this stuff. This is what his science fiction novels pretty much are. They're excellent, by the way. I highly recommend reading Tom Kratman. He loves to posit sort of military games, strategic games, things like that. Everybody knows this about Tom Kratman. And of course, this is talking about Trump and a militia and all that. So of course, it's political violence. Literally, words are violence. Let's remind us who's making this claim. So, can you imagine this guy in a room together with Tom Kratman, and if we put them in a cage fight? Now, Tom Kratman's much older, but I'd put all my money on Kratman. So, the guy will probably call this advocating Tom Kratman to do violence against him in his next post, because that's kind of what he's been doing. Oh my gosh, these people are crazy. Anyway. There's a bunch of examples that are very similar to this stuff. They're talking about the event. Very little has been said. This is a post by somebody about Ashley Babbitt, who was killed at the Capitol. She was an unarmed, again, military veteran, just a woman who was walking through in the wrong place at the wrong time. She got shot, and nobody investigated into it. Nobody attempted to look into this, whether it was wrongful or not. Nobody gave her any sort of help. And we know nothing about it since then. So somebody posted, the guy who shot her needs to be doxxed. After that, the problem will take care of itself. And that is how you unfortunately get justice these days. People complain about it on the internet, and then the government might move to do something. But of course, this guy likes to put words in this guy's mouth. Let's be very blunt about what Theoryman is saying. He is urging people to kill a police officer who defended the U.S. Capitol. This is not what was said whatsoever. If you can clearly read the words for yourself, it scares me that a genre writer has this bad level of reading comprehension. But that's what it is. And of course, he says there's dozens of examples of this stuff and goes crazy on this. Why won't Baen address this issue? And he goes off, guess who he blames? Guess who he blames? Gamergate. Every single time. Now, you don't need to read the TLDR. It's just him whining about right-wing conservatives and things like that for the most part. But of course, everything just comes back to these people just saying Gamergate's bad, which again, Gamergate never did anything violent. Gamergate never did anything really bad at all. They were just defending themselves against people libeling them, just like we have to do every day now. So of course, the proper rational response to this would be either to completely ignore it or to tell these people to go F themselves in a place that doesn't shine with the sun, and just don't deal with that. Protect your customers, because Baen Books has these people who are their customers on Baen's bar. I mean, this is the ridiculous part. These are the people who buy Baen Books. This guy is not buying Baen Books at all, so I don't know why you would even care what he thinks. And you're protecting your authors like Tom Kratman, because if you think about it, if Tom Kratman gets into trouble for doing nothing because he did nothing wrong, there's no crime committed by what he said, this is your company. You got to defend your authors. So Tony Weisskopf of Baen Books, of course, did that, right? No. And this is a long-held tradition of Baen Books cucking in these situations. Tony goes,
"It's brought to my attention by some helpful folks that speech not everyone agrees with." Ooh, speech not everyone agrees with.
Remember when Baen Books and the Sad Puppies were all about, like, we can have free speech and all that? Now speech not everyone agrees with triggers them.
And they may have become unlawful speech.
There's no unlawful speech. We just went through this. There's nothing unlawful here. There was nobody trying to actually incite a riot or anything like that. I mean, that's about as far as you can go, and that's a big stretch. But using terms like unlawful speech enables these people, and this is what Tony's done, unfortunately.
Has occurred on Baen's bar in order to fully investigate those serious allegations.
Now remember, an SJW making a Patreon post is a serious allegation. I would just laugh this person off the internet, and that's what I've been doing. We'll talk about that in a second.
And any violations for Baen's bar no-hitting rule. We will be taking a break from the bar as of noon February 16th and encourage our readers to enjoy lawful conversations elsewhere.
So she took down the website. She didn't address anything about Kratman, didn't talk about defending her own authors, didn't talk about defending her own fans. In fact, this is kind of gaslighting her fans, if you think about it. It's saying, hey, you guys are engaged in unlawful speech, whatever the heck that means. Gosh, these are supposed to be libertarians who are all about free speech, and they're flipping out about SJWs on Patreon. Now, these SJWs only get power because of people who acquiesce to them, people who are in fear of them. If you do not act in fear of them, if you act harshly towards them, they're not going to be able to hold any power over you. Apparently, Baen never learned that lesson from the Sad Puppies debacle, because they backed down from the Sad Puppies already. They tried to get their authors to disassociate from that brand, even though their authors created it, which resulted in their authors getting just torched and targeted, and of course, they didn't really get any defense. Now, this comes as no surprise, because Tony Weisskopf actually, after all of that happening with Baen, has been named guest of honor of Worldcon this year. Now, this is the same Worldcon who harassed, gave their authors wooden asshole awards, were terrible to them, and Weisskopf just goes and accepts this, quote, honor, and does this. So these are people who are trying to stay in with the establishment, obviously by the actions here, and trying to take the ticket. And this is the problem with corporate establishment, and why these people are never people to put your faith into. As much as this guy is a complete mongoloid loser, we expect that from people like that who are trying to get out there. He's of course claiming he's getting death threats now, which he's not. That's also a lie. But everything he says is a complete lie and a complete over-the-top exaggeration of what's being said. And I don't know, the proper thing to do is obviously to protect your readers and protect your authors. That's not being done here. So look for real independent alternatives. I mean, when you see this sort of thing, you know that they're just going to bow to the pressure. I think, I mean, if this is hate speech and if this is, what do they call it, unlawful speech, and Tom Kratman's named in an example of such here, who is their author, it's not going to be very long before they cancel contracts with Tom Kratman, making him the Gina Carano of science fiction here, which is really sad, because Kratman's, again, a good guy, and, you'd expect people who have been there for his career and actually lived off of careers of people like him to actually step up and defend him and defend the readers that actually support their company. Not anymore. This is 2021. Signing off. That's about the situation right now. I'll have more on this as more develops. And thank you for being there. Hit that like and subscribe button, and definitely go check out The Stars Entwined. Get good books by people who don't hate you. See you guys soon.